Proverbs 14, 1 through 35. Devotional focus verse. He that despiseth his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Proverbs 14:21. Mike Adkins wanted to be a blessing and a witness to the world around him. One day, as he was outside his house, he noticed his next-door neighbor Norman. The other people on the block considered Norman to be messy and rather weird. He was a loner, and the neighbors were happy to keep it that way. However, the Spirit of God nudged Mike to reach out to this man and befriend him. As Mike began to interact with Norman, he observed firsthand the mess and filth that Norman lived in. Though initially repulsed, Mike followed the leading of God and pitched in to help. He cleaned up Norman's yard and house, even going into Norman's filthy bathroom to pull out the toilet and replace the wax seal. It would have been much easier for Mike to ignore the needs of his unappealing neighbor and focus on his own clean and orderly life, but he continued working with Norman and eventually had the opportunity to share God's love and the hope of salvation with him. As a result of Mike's caring concern, Norman was saved and lived many years for the Lord. Serving God will not always be easy, neat, and tidy. We may be called to work in areas that are not the most pleasant. We may have to get our hands dirty. We may need to reach out to the unlovely people of this world. We may have to get out of our comfort zones to win someone for the Lord. Sometimes following the Lord's purpose for our life will take large measures of patience, long-suffering, and love, along with a good sense of humor, grace, and forgiveness. It may mean going to a mission meeting in a disreputable part of town, ministering to the homeless, or reaching out to disadvantaged Sunday school children and their families. It may mean spending time with a feeble elderly person and tending to his or her needs. Or it could mean ministering in a foreign country where familiar foods and creature comforts are not available. In whatever way God chooses, we want to love others and show mercy, as the focus verse exhorts. As we apply ourselves wholeheartedly in reaching out to those God places in our paths, we will obtain sheaves to offer to God one day. It will be worth it all. Background information. Chapter 14 continues with Proverbs attributed to Solomon, which give practical and wise advice for everyday matters. In chapters 10 through 15, most of the Proverbs show a contrast between people who are righteous and those who are wicked. In chapter 14, Solomon gave varied observations on moral virtues and their contrary vices. He began by contrasting again the wise people and the foolish, and saying that fearing or honoring God shows obedience. The importance of choosing words carefully, stating the truth, and respecting God and His precepts are restated. Wise people receive instruction and do not mock sin. Verse 4 speaks of the usefulness of an ox. When Proverbs was written, oxen were used to plow, water crops, harvest, and grind flour. These were valuable animals. More oxen meant more productivity, but also more care. The animals had to be fed and sheltered, and it was necessary to clean up after them. The point of the verse is that their value outweighed the effort needed to maintain them. In verse 11, the word tabernacle could be translated tent. A tent would appear less stable than a house. However, Solomon pointed out that righteousness will last, while wickedness will fail, even though the wicked seem to have built a house. Both verses 11 and 12 show that the human perspective is often not the correct one. Verses 15 through 18 contrast the gullible with the discerning, and the wise with the foolish. The phrase soon angry in verse 17 could be translated short of nostrils, meaning that anger is shown on the face and by more rapid breathing. Verse 22 asks a question, which is unusual in Proverbs. The word err in the original language meant go astray or cause to wander. The writer wanted his readers to understand that devising evil would result in a person being lost. Care for the poor is commanded. In Solomon's time, many thought poverty indicated God's disapproval, but verse 31 shows that God the Creator is concerned for the poor. This concept is taught throughout the Bible. Conclusion: let us work wherever we see a need, even if it is not always pleasant or comfortable. It may not be easy, but we will have a fruitful harvest to present to the Lord.
Proverbs chapter 14. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. He that walketh in his uprightness feareth the Lord, but he that is perverse in his ways despiseth him. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. A faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. A scorner seeketh wisdom, and findeth it not, but knowledge is easy unto him that understandeth. Go from the presence of a foolish man, when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor. The heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger doth not intermeddle with his joy. The house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Even in laughter the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth, and departeth from evil, but the fool raggeth, and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is hated even of his own neighbor, but the rich hath many friends. He that despiseth his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Do they not err that devise evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good. In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. A true witness delivereth souls, but a deceitful witness speaketh lies. In the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. In the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the want of people is the destruction of the prince. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his Maker, but he that honoureth him hath mercy on the poor. The wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous hath hope in his death. Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The king's favour is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causes shame.